Hello my dear sewing friends, it's Elisa here with Thoughtful Creativity, and today we have a gorgeous one. It's a free sewing pattern that has been loved by seamstresses and sewing enthusiasts across the globe for last couple of years, so I believe, and as you can tell, I'm not an exception. And of course, it's a ruffle sleeve top by Peppermint Sewing Magazine. Today on Free Sewing Pattern Review, a weekly series where I tell you everything you need to know about this or that particular sewing pattern that I have actually made, so that way you can save a little bit of money and make something beautiful and gorgeous and wear it and be super happy. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So before we jump into the pattern card and dissecting this free sewing pattern as we usually do in this kind of videos, I wanted to point your attention towards one thing that I found very awesome actually, but I failed to see it because, well, guess what? I never print instructions and I barely ever make it to the end of the instructions to begin with, and I'm not sure if you're the same way, but I know that I am the same way. That's the reason I love sewing with Word style, because instructions are like this big. But either way, there's actually a really cool reflection / notes section at the end of the pattern instructions for this particular pattern. I'm not sure if they do it for every single Peppermint free sewing pattern, but for this one they did it, and I found it kind of cool because it asks you like questions. What did you enjoy about the process? What were the difficulties? It also has like a little place for your measurements, so you can record them right over there, and I found it to be so great, you know, especially if sewing is more of like a meditative way for you to kind of zone out from the world. I thought this is a great tool to utilize, and such a shame on me that I've never seen it before until I actually dove into the pattern instructions for this particular video. You learn something new every day, right? All right, back to the pattern card. So the sizes go from A through J, and they have their own little size system. But what I love particularly about free sewing patterns from Peppermint Magazine is that they always give you the body measurement size chart and also the finished garment measurement size chart, which is always very helpful, particularly for this project, because this one runs a little bit big, at least for myself. And to be honest, all of their free sewing patterns run a little bit big to my taste, but that might be just me. So definitely double check both sizes on both size charts. Now to do that, you can just go on the Peppermint Sewing Magazine website, which I will leave in the info box below, so that way you can find this free sewing pattern super easy, and then you click on the instructions. And another thing that I love about free sewing patterns from Peppermint Magazine is that they don't require you to log in, so you can just download it without like logging in and typing in your new password and your billing address and whatnot. It's just super easy. You just download what you need and you make something beautiful. The pattern itself is very straightforward. It only has a couple pattern pieces, so it is a very quick and easy make. So it has the front, the back, the sleeve ruffle, and the facing. Now, one thing here to say about the facing, I personally find it a waste of fabric and a waste of time. However, a facing does make it for a very neat finish very quickly, a lot quicker than with a bias tape. So if you're just beginning and you really want that really nice V-neck, so facing might be the way to go for you. However, here's another thing to remember, that if you're using sheer or semi-sheer fabric or fabric that will show through if something comes really close to it, you might see that facing line and it might be a little bit ugly. So definitely keep that in mind, and if you are choosing a fabric, a really nice lightweight fabric, definitely fold it in two and see if you can see that second fabric or the line from the second fabric underneath it. Now, since we're talking about fabric, the pattern itself suggests to use either midweight or lightweight fabrics for this particular project. Now here's the thing, if you're using a lightweight fabric, it's going to drape nicely over your bust, but it's not going to give you that much of a pronounced ruffle. So if you want a really nice big pronounced ruffle, you might want to extend that rectangular piece because it's just that easy. Now if you're choosing a midweight fabric or something that's a little bit heavier or has a little bit of body to it, then you're going to have a really nice pronounced ruffle, but your silhouette around the bust might look a little bit more like a tent shape, just like you see on my dress example, which I made out of a heavier suede fabric. It was like a midweight heavier suede fabric, and if I'm not mistaken, that fabric might have been classified as an upholstery fabric in the red tag section at Joann's, and I bought it years ago, and I made this particular dress about 2 years ago now because I was pregnant at that time, and I made this dress to go to a wedding. Which actually reminds me that I do have a full video that I made a couple of years ago, just when I was making this dress for a wedding, that will guide you through how to transform this pattern from a top to make it into a dress. So if you've never done that before, you're just not sure how to cut it, and you want to have a little bit more confidence, definitely go ahead and watch that video. I will leave it in the info box below for you as well. So for this particular version of this ruffle sleeve blouse, I did 3 very minor adjustments to get the look that you see in front of you. So the first one was I skipped the facing. Just like I mentioned to you guys, in a lot of situations, not in all of them, but in a lot of situations, I do find that facing is just a waste of time. And because you can actually see through the embroidery of this cotton, I thought, well, I have 2 options. I can either line the whole front and back bodice, or I can opt for a bias tape, which is the option that I went with. I did go with quite thick 1/2 inch bias tape just to make sure that I have a really nice V-neck. And what I love about this pattern as well is that the V-neck is not really just like you know, a V-neck, but it's a really nice fluid V-neck, which kind of makes it look very nice and organic. Now another adjustment that I did is, of course, the sleeve. So the total length from the start of the sleeve or the start of the ruffle to the end of the ruffle is 13 inches. So I did cut it at 14 inches, adding 1 inch for the hem and of course the seam allowance to attach the ruffle to the actual sleeve. I did not adjust the actual width of the ruffle because I did not want it to be too wide to prevent this when you kind of lift your hand and it just kind of all falls like this. So I just kind of really wanted to leave it as is to make it nice and comfortable to wear. And the third adjustment that I did was the length. As I did mention, I do find that some of the free patterns from Peppermint Sewing Magazine are on a shorter side. So I really wanted to extend the length of the hem because I'm planning to wear this not only on its own, but also with a jacket. And I kind of really wanted this embroidered cotton to kind of peek from underneath the jacket as well. So I did extend the front for less than 1 inch, and then the back by about 1.5 inches, maybe almost 2 inches. And I did curve the back hem as well because I wanted it to have a little bit more of a shirt feel rather than just, you know, plain old straight hem, which is nothing wrong with that, but I kind of really wanted to have a little bit more of an element to this blouse. When we look inside of this garment, you'll be able to see that I did finish all the seams with a serger, and I did press them open to ensure that I'm not adding any bulk to any of the seams because the cotton itself is pretty lightweight, and I really wanted to make sure that everything goes nice and smooth. However, I do have to tell you that all of these little embroidery pieces were a little bit tough to sew through because they are quite thick. So what I did for the V-neck and the bias tape that I used for it, I did cut bias tape out of a separate material, which I actually do in about 95% of the cases anyway. And that does 2 things in this situation and in all of the other situations. It's a little tip for you how to make the most out of your fabric. So number 1, it makes it easier to sew through this particular project because then I'm not sewing over these really thick bits, which kind of really jags the machine, and it's just really hard to make a nice straight line. Another thing is that when you're cutting your bias tape, you have to cut it on a 45-degree angle, which leaves really awkward bits and pieces of fabric left over that you can't really use for much of anything else. So if you cut your bias tape from a designated fabric for bias tape only, you're actually preserving the leftover fabric from your main project that you can use for later on for other things, or maybe even make it into another garment. And of course that kind of saves you on fabric as well, and make sure that you are not left over with some remnants that you can't use for anything else. Here I want to say that this free sewing pattern is so much more than you see on the cover, and as always I want to encourage you to experiment and try something new and see beyond what you see on the pattern cover. So it doesn't have to be a V-neck, it can be a round neck, super easy adjustment. You don't have to add the ruffle, you can skip the ruffle and you have a very simple top. You don't have to make it so short, which I do think that it runs on a shorter side. You can make it longer. You can put a ruffle on the bottom. You can make it into a dress like I did. So there's so many different variations that you can add to this free sewing pattern. So that way you don't have to just print it once, make it once and be done with it and waste all that time in putting the pattern together. You can actually use it time and time again. Now, this is the question that I get asked every single time without a doubt when I review a free sewing pattern by Peppermint Sewing Magazine or any other sewing designer from Europe or any other country that uses A4 sheets. So how do we print those when we live here in US? where we use letter size paper. Well, don't stress, don't panic. You don't have to order a format paper from Amazon or anywhere else. It's super easy. The difference in the sizes is actually not that big. So all you have to do is you have to make sure that when you print the first page, that the actual test square measures what it needs to measure. And if it does, and of course you have to print, don't adjust to size, don't fit to page, just print it as is. And when your test sheet actually measures what it needs to measure, that's it. Just print the rest of the pattern and you'll be able to align it without a problem. More freestyle patterns is always awesome, so check out the video that you see right over here. It's full with videos like this one where I review a particular freestyle pattern per video and tell you everything you need to know about it. There's tops, there's bottoms, there's really nice cardigans, so take a look and I hope you'll find what you're looking for. Until next time, happy sewing and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!